Here we are back at it again. Another night, another video. And today we got a great topic. Great to me. What I like to talk about is manhood, masculinity. The thing everybody call toxic, the thing people are kind of twisted about in today's time, but very much so a necessity now more than ever. Because hard times create strong men and good times create weak men, right? I guess the saying goes something like that. But check this out. This is what a lot of people don't talk about, and I think it's not emphasized enough in today's time. We see it a lot, but it's termed something different. A lot of people call it toxic. And what that is the dark side of men, right? Every man has that dark side. And if he doesn't, I don't know if I fully trust him. Just being honest. So I think there's a saying that says being incapable of violence is not the same as being non-violent. And that's what we have to understand. A lot of men understand restraint, right? I think Charleston White says it all the time. Only the strong can have compassion for the weak. And that's true. That's extremely true. If you look at um the old books and movies talking about like samurais and warriors and things like that, yeah, you want to eliminate your opponent, you wanted to get all this stuff, but there's a certain honor in sparing somebody, right? I hate to say it like that because a lot of people might believe in sparing no one, but that's where that compassion comes in. There's a certain honor in knowing it. You know what I'm saying? This soldier's a great soldier. You're a great soldier. Yeah, I'm gonna spare you, man. You know what I'm saying? Like we gonna meet each other again anyway. You even see it in like the depictions of the World War II movies and things like that. If well, a person from a foreign army runs across an American or vice versa, and they both looking at each other with their weapons drawn, and it's about to go there. But they're at the point where they both tired. They both understand this some BS. Neither one of us know each other. We're not fighting over anything that me and you personally did to each other. So they spare each other. But the fact that they're both capable of doing that says a lot about the dark side of men and masculinity. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Without further ado, let's jump right into the discussion. The dark side of men. And number one is the psychological and mythological lens. So I found a few authors who've written books, right? Who talk about this. One author is Robert Bly, via the Jungian psychology. So the book is Iron John, a book about men. And the thought in this book is Bly, he argues that modern men have become soft, not in the physical sense, right? But because they are disconnected from a deep, wild, primal masculine energy, the wild man, as he calls it. This isn't about being brutish, but about accessing a potent, life affirming force. The dark side emerges when his energy is repressed, uninitiated, or channeled poorly, leading to passive aggression, depression, or sudden, uncontrolled outbursts of rage. We can come up with many examples, recent examples, but how to address it. So there's an initiation, right? Men need deliberate initiation into manhood. I believe in that. It's a very ancient and cavemanish tradition, but I do believe that men need that initiation into manhood. They need that man to hold their hand, and once they up of certain age, show them not being funny. These are the things that come with manhood. These are the things that come with masculinity, right? It's a great responsibility because it comes with great powers, right? So often through older male mentors, they're on enough. I could say this for myself. They're on enough. Well, at least y'all ain't never reach out. Y'all ain't never put y'all hand out and grab me. A lot of times I grab myself and pull me up. So I agree with him on that. So grieving, right? Men must grieve the loss of their connection to their fathers and his primal energy. I believe a lot of men are. And I believe that because a lot of men never had a chance to establish that connection. That connection with the father or even a father figure, a positive one, right? They're grieving that loss, and we can see it in what's happening and what's taking place in today's society, from science to just social interactions, right? So he also discusses reclaiming the Zeus energy. Black encourages men to connect with assertive, kingly energy that provides order and blessing rather than tyrannical power. And I'm gonna go out on the whim, and I'm gonna say this right here, right? We see it in toxic leadership. It is very obvious, right? I may be wrong about some instances, but a lot of times, most of the time, I'm not wrong about this. The guy who got picked on in high school, the guy who wasn't getting the dates, who didn't get to take his date that he wanted to the prom, and may have went with other guys that turned out to be less than him. Once they get, once they hit their stride in society and in socioeconomics, you can kind of see how they start to treat people. You can kind of see how they start acting amongst other people, like looking down on them or talking this way or talking that way, right? About certain people or about society in general. You can always see that. Like they become tyrants. And it's very obvious. Like we get it. You grew up, you're successful, you're very intelligent, you're educated, you have the money. A lot of people listen to you because of that reason. And they're abusing power and authority. We can see that a lot, man. I'm just being honest, bro. It's a lot of lames in positions of power who who abide by tyrannical views, man. That's just the only way I can say it. It's a lot of lames, man, that y'all shouldn't have put in that position who now have way too much power. Just how it is. Okay, so look, another author, very, very popular. We got Jordan Peterson, right? And the book that we're talking about from Jordan Peterson is The 12 Rules for Life and Antidote to Chaos. So the thought he has in this book is he discusses the dark side of man primarily through the Jungian concept of the shadow. So the shadow contains all the repressed, aggressive, and potentially dangerous parts of a man's personality. We all have it. If a man doesn't have it, again, I don't know if I trust him. If left unacknowledged, it can control him and manifest in destructive ways. And I'm gonna say this: we can see this in the hood, guys. Right? It controls and manifests in very destructive ways. But Peterson also speaks about the capacity for evil within all people and how men, in particular, must confront their potential for aggression and violence. I totally agree with this, and this is what I always say: you have to confront it, right? In some people, you know it's there. You can see it on them, right? It's got to be in you, not on you, but you can see it in them, like in their eyes, and just how they snap about with certain things. You can see this potential for aggression and violence, which is why, as men, we can keep a lot of things cordial, and we can keep a lot of things. We can mediate situations, right? We always need a mediator, but we can keep it from getting to that level because we know that so many of us are capable of it. Whether you carry it out very well or you're just not as good in carrying it out. But how to address it? You have to confront your shadow. He says, like, don't try to get rid of the darkness. Please don't. We need men like that, or else we wouldn't have a military. Instead, bring in the light, right? So acknowledge your capacity for nastiness, aggression, and evil. You have to acknowledge it. So integrate the shadow is also what he talks about. Learn to harness the positive aspects of the shadow, like the capacity for necessary aggression, to set boundaries and defend oneself and others. We can take this from an example like a father or like a mother, right? Or somebody who's in the military or somebody who's very educated, right? Very educated, very experienced, and they also have that side of them. We have to acknowledge that, but also integrate that dark part for times when it's needed, right? And mainly I say for protection. The main reason why we have a second amendment right. And if you really like that, you don't even have to exercise that second amendment right. You can exercise your 10 and not the 10th amendment 10, if you get what I'm saying. Peterson also says like take responsibility. The primary antidote to chaos and malviolence is to set your own house in perfect order before you criticize the world, to take immense personal responsibility. The old people might say, my bad. The elders might say, sweep around your own front door before you sweep around mine. Like that's just, I mean, to me, that's a golden rule of society. At least it should be, right? So next we have the sociological and cultural lens. And the first author I'm going to mention is Jackson Katz. This book is The Macho Paradox: Why Some Men Hurt Women and How All Men Can Help. But the thought within this book is Katz reframes issues like sexual assault and domestic violence from being women's issues to being men's issues. The dark side is the spectrum of male violence, from bullying and misogynistic language to physical and SA, which is perpetuated by cultural norms of masculinity that equate power with dominance and control. I believe, like, not in the physical so much, like right there on spot. Now in our organization, we have ways to combat this, right? You know, like addressing things on the spot and stepping in and kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of interfering and stepping in and like, hey, like just dead it on spot. You know what I'm saying? To address that. But I believe there is left up to the law a lot of times for that to be carried out. At least a punishment for things like that. It's not up to you on the street to be carrying out punishment. But at the same time, yes, step in, causing interference and disrupt it, right? But how to address it? Bystander intervention, what I just said. Train men to intervene when they see other men engaging in disrespectful or predatory behavior. I come from a different environment. I grew up around different scenarios and situations. I've seen a lot, and I'm not going to put my 2 cents in on that because there's multiple things I can say about multiple situations. So I'm gonna just let this author. I'm gonna just provide the perspective that this author provides, if that makes sense. So language matters. Okay, this is what Cat says. Language matters. Challenge sexist and objectifying language among male peers. Now, this is where the leadership comes in, as Katz mentioned. Men in positions of authority, so like coaches, executives, or teachers, they must model healthy, non-violent masculinity and actively teach it to younger men. I do agree with that, especially going back to the Jordan Peterson book where we say you have to acknowledge that dark side and learn how to mitigate certain risks that come with it, right? That's what I think is important to understand about that. Now we got another author. The next author we have is Bell Hooks. So this book is called The Will to Change Men, Masculinity and Love. So the thought that Hooks has in his book is his argument with great compassion that the dark side of men, their emotional numbness, isolation, and capacity for violence, is a direct result of the patriarchal system that also harms them. Mm. Men are socialized from childhood to shut down their emotions, to equate vulnerability with weakness, and to seek power over others. This emotional stunting is the root of much of the damage they cause. I can agree with that in certain instances, but then again, I can't because some of that is healthy. Like you can call it toxic all you want, but shutting down emotions is a good thing in certain times, right? Vulnerability can be a weakness because 100% people will use their vulnerability against you. And that's the part that people are not talking about when they say that when they mention that association. Sometimes when you're being vulnerable around people who don't know how to acknowledge and don't know how to uh respectfully deal with that aggression and deal with that capacity for violence and things like that, they will use that weakness against you. So yes, men should suppress that very much so, 1,000,000%, because there are other men out there who are straight savages, and any sign of weakness, they're going to annihilate you. So that's just how it is in the man's world. But the seeking power over others, I don't necessarily believe that that's a patriarchal thing. I believe that's a law of nature, right? I do believe there's a hierarchy, right? There's a power structure. Not that you should be seeking the power, but it exists. It exists. It's just how it is, man. It exists. So no, we shouldn't be seeking power over each other because we all entitled to our own human rights and things like that. But within the hierarchy of life or in social groups and things like that, yeah, it's a real thing, right? But how to address it? Emotional literacy is what Hooks talks about. Men must be taught and must practice identifying and expressing their feelings. Again, not gonna go too deep into that. Hooks mentions love as an antidote. Cultivate loving relationships that allow for vulnerability. Men need to give and receive love without associating it with a loss of control or power. Now, I'm gonna say this within the guy groups, at least most of the guys that I know, like even if you from, you know, a decrepit and a disruptive environment, even if you grew up less fortunate, I would argue to say that this exists. This manifests just in a different way when you come from a different environment, right? And the reason why I say this is because you can be doing all the things in that environment that you're not supposed to do, but the loss of a friend, right? The loss of a comrade or a family member or one getting sick. I've seen the hardest of men, the hardest, come to each other's aid when in times like that. I've seen men who are about to lose their freedom or are going through a rough patch in their life where it was a choose a me or them type of scenario, and everybody got together and stood by this person's side. So that's why I say love as an antidote. I can't agree with all the things that were said necessarily that Hooks addressed because I've seen people in certain environments use love as an antidote, right? I've been in a situation where one of the hardest dudes in the city, I'm just gonna say that, one of the hardest dudes in the city, he had a diabetic attack and he was down for a couple of weeks and he really couldn't do anything for himself. So every day, me and my folks at the time, we would come and bring him plates. And he was so weak at one point that I had to feed him. And it was never no, oh man, this make me feel weak. Or it was like, man, I'm in need, I'm in help. Like, I appreciate you for helping me. And in turn, I can't discuss too much on the other end, but yeah, he returned the favor in other ways. I'm just gonna say that. But it was all love, right? So I have to disagree with some things that is said, but then again, I have to agree because I want us to progress as men, as in manhood and with our masculinity. I want us to continuously progress, right? So also Hooks mentions a feminist critique for men's liberation. Understand that challenging patriarchy is not an attack on men, but a path to their own liberation from a toxic and limiting role. And that's what we have from the author Bell Hooks in the book, The Will to Change Men, Masculinity, and Love. I love love. I respect love. I think everybody should practice love as an antidote. Just saying. Third, we have the systemic and historical lens. The thought is that the dark side often stems from unhealed trauma, from childhood abuse, witnessing violence, or the trauma of being forced to conform to a rigid, emotionless, masculine idea across generations. This trauma manifests as anger, addiction, and an inability to form healthy attachments. All of that is true. All of that is true. I think we're overusing this word trauma because I don't think not everything is trauma. I just think we have forget it. I'm gonna say I think we have weaker people now. I don't think everything is trauma. I think we have weaker people. But there are a lot of people who do actually experience traumatic um circumstances or situations in life. There are a lot of people who have traumatic experiences, right, that lead to this anger, addiction, and inability to form healthy attachments. That is so true. And we see it manifesting every day in certain men's actions, right? But how to address it? So, trauma informed therapy. Seek therapeutic approaches that specifically address how trauma is stored in the body and mind. Now, a few months ago, I was overseas and I was getting to this point. Now, me personally, y'all, I'm sharing something. This is a vulnerable moment. I am a very angry person. Like, my favorite comic book superhero, if you want to call it that, is the Hulk, right? He has a rage about himself that when it goes too far, he turns into the Hulk and he's very destructive. He can tear a lot of things up. And in his moments of vulnerability, the only thing that brings him back down to a normal level is that woman. A lot of times I'm the same way, right? I'm the same exact way. So I can see, I could see how therapy would help. And I was told that I should seek a form of therapy. And not being funny, I have tried that before. I have had someone, in my life who provided that, if that makes sense. And again, was a psychologist, was a therapist, all of these things. I've had that person. And not being funny, just how the male brain works, at least mine, and how my masculinity works. I'm not big on talking to an individual about that all the time. I don't want to talk about my emotions all the time. I just don't, because it's going to make me even more angry. I'd rather just let it ride and revisit it at a later time, right? But I've also found different things. Like, unfortunately, pain is a form of therapy for me. Tattoo, the pain of a needle, or the gym when you get that lactic acid build up and it's burning, or when I'm going for a long run, and it's like a dopamine hit once you hit like mile 3, mile 4, and it's getting hard, it's getting difficult, but you keep going. That's a form of therapy for me. So I just try to find healthy outlets, um, as opposed to seeking out therapy all the time. And I feel like a lot of men are like that. We don't want to talk about our feelings and our emotions all the time because it's hard. And just because something hard doesn't mean you should avoid it. But when it comes to that, I think you should just find other healthy outlets if therapy isn't the form that you choose, right? So, um, within the field, right? They mentioned breaking the cycle. A lot of authors mention breaking the cycle. So understand that harmful behaviors are often learned and passed down. Conscious work is required to stop the cycle. Right. Self-awareness is everything, y'all. It is everything. And if you don't possess a high level of self-awareness, I'm going to put it out there that you may be falling short in a lot of areas. I'm just being honest. That's just my own personal opinion. So we have to create supportive communities. Men need safe spaces with other men where they can be authentic and share their struggles without judgment. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with me creating videos and me putting out bits and pieces of information and me just opening up and giving y'all a lot of myself and my past experiences. That's what I'm trying to do, right? Even if it's a DM, even if it's just hitting me up or email or anything like that, I'm going out there to say, like, I'm always here to talk. And just because I have to have a high level of professionalism in my work, or on social media or things like that, that doesn't mean that I don't understand what a lot of people's going through, right? There's almost nothing on planet Earth you can't talk to me about. And as I say almost, because there are a lot of things that I haven't experienced, just because me growing up, my childhood wasn't that, it wasn't like a lot of people's is. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I didn't grow up like that. But me as an adult, I also gonna say this. I didn't make a lot of the mistakes that a lot of people made, but then again, I did, right? There's a few that I slipped past, but every other mistake you can think of, yes, I've been there and I've overcame it. I just knew where to stop. So that's that. But that's what I'm trying to do, man. Create a supportive community and create that safe space where men know, like, I can chop it up with KT or EB or Eric or Ben. I can chop it up with Benny about anything in life. I can chop it up with him because there's almost nothing I haven't been through that I can't relate to, right? So that's the thing right there. In this discussion tonight, I know we went a little bit long. I know I probably rumbled a little bit too much, but like I say, when we have these discussions, man, when I come on here and I chop it up with y'all, I just try to bring y'all a piece of me and present information that I think that y'all will be interested in. And if not, that's fine. I say this every video, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to foster a healthy environment and create a safe space for men like me, because I don't have a lot of friends. I got my bros, I got my tight circle, and I wanted to stay like that. But I also want to introduce people into that circle who maybe create their own circles, right? Who create their own groups, who understand. There are people out there who understand. And I'm sure you hear this all the time, but judgment free zone, as you've probably heard, because I can't knock you for nothing I probably done already did. I'm just keeping it G. Every man has that dark side. And when you're not able to let it out or let it out in healthy ways, it's going to manifest in other areas of your life that's going to harm you. And I don't want that to happen to men of any age, especially the youth, right? So that's what we're doing with these talks. But again, y'all drop it down in the comments, man. Leave a like if you like this video. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that every man has a dark side? Do y'all think that the dark side of men and the capacity for aggression and violence contributes to the toxic masculinity? Do y'all think? I don't know. Um, I'm gonna leave my personal viewpoints and I'm gonna leave my personal thoughts out of it. But I would like to hear y'all's, man. Keep it, don't keep it clean, keep it nice, but keep it honest, right? Keep it honest. And that's what we gonna rock with, man. That's what we gonna rock with tonight. Every man has a dark side. That's the end of the video. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I have nothing more for y'all. I'm out.